Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin says the U.S.'s peace plan could be a basis of a Ukraine deal, but says the war will end, quote, once Ukrainian troops withdraw from the territories they occupy. If they don't withdraw, we will achieve this through military means.
Okay, guys, so welcome to the video. Um, I was talking about this in a previous video where, Putin wants certain territory and, that Ukraine is currently occupying. And it's across a certain line where, they're continuously fighting over this certain territory. And Putin has already gave a warning here saying that if they don't withdraw, they're going to continue, military action. So it's been several years, like 3 or 4, I think it's 4 years of this conflict going on, and like I said, a lot of lives lost and a lot of people displaced, a lot of infrastructure being, damaged, flatline, really. Very tragic catastrophe, everything, a lot of mayhem going on. But I'm gonna let the video continue and get a little bit more perspective on this.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's chief negotiator, Andriy Yermak, says as long as Zelensky is president, no one should count on us giving up territory. He will not sign away territory. The Constitution prohibits this. Nobody can do that unless they want to go against the Ukrainian Constitution and the Ukrainian people. Here to discuss it, national security expert Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Now let's dive right into the hard work, and that is, of course, where things stand. We know Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will go to Moscow to talk with the Russians, but it's pretty clear from Andriy Yermak that this whole idea about ceding Donetsk, Luhansk, the Donbass region is not a thing that they're looking to do, and that could be a huge sticking point. And you see that map along that red line. That is essentially the line that they have been fighting on for nearly 4 years, and Ukraine saying, we're not giving this area up.
Okay, so you guys can see from the map, um, this is Ukraine, and as you can see, along that line is where a lot of the major fighting is going on. As you see, Russia is right next door, and they want to bring this area into Russia. Um, so as you see, Crimea was already controlled by Russia before February 24th, 2022, when this conflict started. And the red is where they want to have control. Um, and as you can see, there's Ukrainian counter offenses that are in the blue areas, and reported Ukrainian partisan warfare, and some of the areas like in Melitopol, and several other little areas, and the yellow circles is where there's been significant fighting in the past 24 hours. So this conflict has been going on for 4 long years, and it's just like you start to wonder, like, man, would they ever run out of troops? Would there be, what is the death toll of this? What like, because this is areas where people were living, and they're no longer able to live in these areas anymore. Um, so we'll see what comes of the peace talks. I know they had some anti-corruption stuff going on in Ukraine, so it's just it's really a lot that's going on, and this is international news, but it also has a lot of ramifications for the United States because, excuse me, we have been funding Zelensky and Ukraine to try to keep them up, and make sure that they're able to defend themselves, as they say. And even though Russia does play nice with us, they also know that we have done those things. Possibly, of course, providing billions of dollars worth of military equipment and things of that nature. So, oh man, so crazy, crazy situation. And with us being a world superpower, we have to find ourselves in the middle of these situations. Not necessarily with our troops, but with our money. And that money comes from us, the taxpayers. So it's the main reason why it's interesting to me, and a reason why I keep my eye on it, because this is a very, very long war. I'm gonna let the video continue.
Where do you see things headed?
Well, as you said, Griff, Putin gave a speech here recently where he said that he wants the Ukrainians to leave the territory. Of course, that's Ukrainian territory that Putin is demanding that Ukrainians leave from. Those soldiers have been bleeding and dying for their territory, for home and hearth, for each other. And so even if Zelensky wanted to say that these Ukrainians had to withdraw, he's not going to be able to get him to. And then you have to deal with the rest of the Ukrainian society, who then has to support a withdrawal, a surrender of Ukrainian territory. So that is going to be, I think, impossible for Ukraine. And then, of course, you just have the fact that Donetsk is significant on the battlefield. So if Ukraine were to give up Donetsk, it permits Russia to have essentially a free reign to the rest of the country, so Russia could regroup and then just reinvade. So it's going to be impossible, I think, to give up that territory. But Griff, last point, Putin was defiant in this speech that he gave. He also said that he didn't want to deal with the Ukrainian government as it was, because he believes it's an illegitimate government. So he's back to his old claims.
Well, you raised such a good point. It's worth reminding viewers that even if Zelensky were willing to give up Donetsk or cede other territory, that would have to go to a national referendum in Ukraine before he could even do it. So it's not like he has that bargaining chip just by his own will.
Okay, so as you heard, like we're saying, the Ukrainians, from my opinion, they're very, very proud people, as they should be. Anybody within any country should be proud of their country and defend their country by all means necessary. And they don't want to give up their land. That's why they're fighting so hard. That's why they've been fighting for 4 years. Because it seems like Russia wants to invade and take over Ukraine and just bring Ukraine into Russia. So, from my understanding of history, that area was all, Russian, if I'm not mistaken. But then it was broken off, and Putin feels like the Ukrainian government isn't a legit government and stuff like that. So, like they were saying, it seems like we're back to square one. Honestly, in my opinion, I don't think Putin ever thought any differently. I think he's been thinking the same thing since day one. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see, what becomes of this. Like, they're trying to create peace talks and stuff like that. But, in my opinion, do I think they're going to keep Putin from wanting that land in that area? I don't think so. And they were saying that they give up Donetsk, that certain area, then that would allow the Russians to regroup, and it would give them, like they said, free range to, invade the country. So I doubt the Ukrainians are going to bend the knee for that. And even if Zelensky wanted to give it up, as they were saying, it would have to go to like a national like vote on whether they're going to give up that land or not. And I don't think the Ukrainian people will want to give it up either, especially after all this time, loved ones lost, a lot of bloodshed, a lot of all kind of mayhem that's been going on in that country. Okay, I'm gonna let the video finish.
But on the flip side, with Putin saying that he'll just take this by force, he's failed to do that. He's shown he cannot do that in the nearly 4 years of fighting. So what's to say he could actually achieve that goal?
He's actually been trying, Griff, since the Obama administration. When the Russians came in and took Crimea, Russia was unable to take Donetsk all the way back then. It's an extremely fortified area, and the Ukrainians have been very tough, even though they do sustain battlefield losses. Donetsk is something that the Ukrainians have been able to hold. And Secretary Rubio has said on November 12th, as recently as November 12th, Griff, he said that Ukraine can't, quote, can't give up Donetsk because it's so significant to Ukraine. And so the American government has acknowledged that and understands that that is simply something that Ukraine can't do. And yet, Russia continues to make maximalist demands. So I think a lot of this is smoke and mirrors on the part of the Russians. I don't think that Putin
Yeah.
is negotiating in good faith, Griff.
We'll see where that goes. Meanwhile, let's bring the conversation into the Western Hemisphere and focus on Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro.
Okay. So, they're going to go into, talking about Venezuela, but uh yeah, I don't think the Ukrainians are going to give up this territory. I don't think they're going to stop fighting until, ever. This may go on for years. Um, do I think Putin is negotiating in good faith? More than likely, no. He doesn't seem like the type of individual who feels a certain kind of way, puts his people in, this type of danger, this type of harm, this type of military action, and then he's going to back down. Because, then what does that say as far as him as a leader to, the Russian people? So it's going to be interesting to see what becomes of this. Of course, I'm going to keep my eyes and ears to this. And, you know, now that I'm doing YouTube, I'm going to make sure, I report on it as much as I can and give my opinion and try to, research and do, get some more facts and stuff like that. So I have, a lot more insight on what's going on, the best I can, being over here where I'm at. But again, if you like my content, make sure, you comment, you like, and you subscribe to my channel because I'm gonna keep more content like this coming. May have a lot of different topics. I've been, wanting to get into my my entertainment bag and stuff like that. It's just really finding the time to do that. So, until then, I'm going to keep reporting on, craziness that's going on within our world so that everyone is aware of what's going on around us and just keep moving forward. Again, this is Justin Paul. Peace.